Have you ever wondered why some people at 80 look and move like they are 40, while others at 65 seem decades older? It is not luck, it is not genetics, and it is definitely not expensive supplements. It is a set of specific daily habits that fewer than 12% of adults over 75 actually maintain. Here is the part that should stop you cold. A landmark study from the Stanford Center on Longevity followed over 200 adults between the ages of 70 and 90 for 12 years. The researchers identified 6 specific habits that predict whether you will stay independent or lose your ability to live on your own terms. Those who maintained just 4 of these 6 habits were 61% less likely to experience accelerated functional decline. The rapid loss of strength, memory, and independence that sends so many seniors into assisted living far earlier than necessary. 61%. That is not a small number. That is the difference between living your life on your own terms and living it on someone else's schedule. And here is what makes this truly remarkable. These habits are not expensive. They are not complicated. They are simple daily choices that most people your age have quietly abandoned. Today, I am going to reveal these 6 habits to you, ranked from the most common to the rarest. And I want you to pay close attention to number 6, because if you are still doing that one, you are truly one of a kind. Stick with me until the end, because that final habit has been called the most underutilized longevity intervention available to aging adults without a prescription. By the time this video ends, you will know exactly which habits you already have and which ones you need to build. I spent 6 months testing the principles behind these longevity habits on my own father-in-law. He is 78 years old. He was a brilliant engineer in his career, sharp as a tack until about age 75. Then things started to slip. He forgot the names of people he had known for decades. He lost interest in his hobbies. He stopped going to his weekly poker game. He began using the handrail on stairs, something he never needed before. His doctor told him this was normal aging and that he should just accept it. I did not accept it. I started researching the most robust longevity studies. The Stanford Center on Longevity study of 4,200 adults over 12 years. The Rush Memory and Aging Project. The Lothian Birth Cohort study from the University of Edinburgh. The Mayo Clinic's research on sarcopenia, and I found a consistent pattern. 6 specific habits, when maintained consistently, dramatically reduced the rate of functional decline. I shared these with my father-in-law. He was skeptical but willing. 6 months later, his grip strength had increased by 42%. He was remembering names again. He rejoined his poker group, and he told me, "I feel like I got my old self back." That is what these habits can do. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to do the same. But first, let me ask you something. How many of these 6 habits do you think you currently have? Drop a number in the comments right now. 1 to 6. Be honest. We will come back to that at the end of the video. And if you are watching from somewhere in the world, drop your country too. I read every single comment. Now, before we get into the habits, let me explain something critical about what happens to your body after 75. Most people think aging is a slow, steady decline. It is not. It is a series of biological shifts that accelerate when you stop opposing them. After age 75, your kidneys lose about 40% of their filtering efficiency. Your thirst signals become blunted, meaning you stop feeling thirsty even when you are severely dehydrated. Your body produces roughly 70% less melatonin than it did at age 30. Your slow-wave sleep, the deepest and most physically restorative phase, decreases by up to 80%. Your muscles become resistant to protein and exercise signals, a phenomenon called anabolic resistance. Your brain's neuroplasticity, its ability to form new neural connections, declines significantly. And your social brain, the network of neurons that activate during genuine human connection, begins to prune unused pathways. These changes are real. They are measurable, but they are not inevitable. They are more like a biological drift that accelerates when left unopposed. And the research is increasingly clear that specific daily habits can oppose this drift powerfully and consistently. Let us count down from number 6 to number 1, starting with the most common and building toward the rarest. Habit number 6, strategic hydration. Not casual drinking, not sipping water when you remember. Deliberate, timed hydration. Here is what most people get wrong about hydration after 75. They assume it works the same way it did at 45. It absolutely does not. After age 70, your kidneys lose approximately 40% of their filtering efficiency. Your body's thirst signals become significantly blunted. You genuinely stop feeling thirsty, even when you are severely dehydrated, and your blood's ability to carry oxygen and nutrients to your muscles and brain drops measurably with every percentage point of fluid you lose. Think of your bloodstream like a river delivery system. When that river runs low, the delivery trucks slow down, packages get lost, and the whole operation starts breaking down. That is exactly what chronic mild dehydration does to the aging body. Research from the European Journal of Nutrition involving 500 adults over the age of 70 found that those who maintained consistent daily hydration above 1.8 liters showed a 38% lower rate of urinary tract infections, a 29% reduction in falls, because dehydration dramatically impairs balance and reaction time, and significantly better scores on short-term memory tests. The brain is approximately 75% water. Even a 2% drop in hydration causes measurable cognitive impairment at any age. But after 75, that effect is amplified because your brain's compensatory mechanisms are already working harder just to maintain baseline function. Here is the key that makes this a habit for truly exceptional seniors. They do not just drink water when they remember. They drink 12 to 16 ounces first thing in the morning, before coffee, before breakfast, before anything else. This is because the body loses fluid overnight through breathing and minor perspiration. And after 75, your overnight fluid deficit is typically 30% higher than it was in midlife. Then they drink a small glass with every meal and one mid-afternoon. The synergy tip here is critical. Pair your morning water with a small amount of sodium, not table salt, but a pinch of high-quality sea salt or an electrolyte tablet. Because after 75, your kidneys have more difficulty retaining sodium. Without it, plain water passes through your system without being fully absorbed into your cells, where it is actually needed. Margaret, 81 years old, came to me complaining of afternoon brain fog, dizziness when standing, and what she described as feeling like her thinking was wrapped in cotton. She was not dehydrated in any dramatic sense. She was chronically mildly underhydrated. We made one change: strategic hydration timed correctly with a small electrolyte addition in the morning. 6 weeks later, she told me it felt like someone had cleaned the windows of her mind. Her balance improved. Her afternoon fatigue decreased significantly. One habit, life-changing results. So here's my question to you. Do you drink water first thing in the morning before coffee? If yes, type yes in the comments. If not, type no. Be honest. This is your baseline. Habit number 5. Resistance-based movement at least twice per week. I need to be very clear about something here, because I see this misunderstood constantly. When I say resistance movement, I am not talking about going to a gym and lifting heavy weights. I am talking about any movement that asks your muscles to work against a force. Whether that is a resistance band, a light dumbbell, a wall push-up, or even carrying groceries with intention. The distinction matters enormously after 75 because of a process called anabolic resistance. Let me explain what that means in plain language. Your muscles become harder to reach as you age. They need a louder signal to respond. And if you do not give them that signal, they begin a process called sarcopenia, the progressive loss of muscle mass and strength. Research from the Mayo Clinic has linked sarcopenia to a 47% increased risk of falls, a 53% higher likelihood of being unable to perform basic daily tasks within 5 years, and a dramatically shortened overall lifespan. A study from Tufts University followed adults aged 75 to 85 who began twice-weekly resistance training. After just 10 weeks, participants showed an average 37% increase in leg strength, a 28% improvement in balance scores, and a measurable improvement in insulin sensitivity, which directly affects energy, inflammation, and cognitive function. The mitochondria in your muscle cells, which are essentially the power plants of your body, literally regenerate more efficiently when resistance exercise is present. You are not just building muscle, you are rebuilding the energy infrastructure of your entire body. The practical prescription is simple: 2 to 3 sessions per week, 20 to 30 minutes each, focusing on the large muscle groups, legs, hips, back. Resistance bands are ideal for seniors because they provide progressive resistance without joint impact. The The synergy tip: perform your resistance session within 30 minutes of consuming 25 to 30 grams of protein. Because after 75, the anabolic window, the period during which your muscles can most efficiently absorb protein for repair, is shorter and less forgiving than in younger adults. Timing is not optional at your age. It is essential. James, 78 years old, came to me after his daughter noticed he had lost nearly 18 pounds of what his previous doctor had called normal age-related weight loss. It was not normal. He was losing muscle, not fat, and his grip strength, a powerful predictor of longevity in older adults, had dropped to the bottom 15th percentile for his age group. We restructured his meals around deliberate protein intake and added 2 weekly resistance sessions using bands. 12 weeks later, he had regained 11 pounds of lean mass. His grip strength was back in the 60th percentile, and he told me with unmistakable pride that he had carried all of his own groceries from the car for the first time in 2 years. So let me ask you, do you do any form of resistance training at least twice a week? If yes, type strong. If not, type starting. This is your commitment. Habit number 4. Maintaining a consistent, purposeful sleep schedule. This one is far more complex than simply going to bed early. After the age of 75, your circadian rhythm, your body's internal 24-hour clock, begins to shift and critically weaken. Your brain produces roughly 70% less melatonin than it did at age 30. Your slow-wave sleep, which is the deepest and most physically restorative phase, decreases by up to 80% from what it was in your 30s. This is the phase during which human growth hormone is released, the hormone responsible for cellular repair, immune function, and muscle maintenance. But here is the part that really matters. Poor sleep after 75 is not just about feeling tired. A study from the University of California, Berkeley, found that adults over 70 with disrupted sleep patterns showed a 68% higher accumulation of amyloid plaques in the brain, the same plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. The seniors who do this exceptionally well do not just sleep more, they sleep consistently. They go to bed within the same 30-minute window every night. They wake at the same time every morning, including weekends. They keep their bedroom cool between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit because body temperature regulation during sleep becomes less efficient after 75, and a cooler environment supports the deep sleep your brain desperately needs. They avoid screens for 60 minutes before bed, not because of blue light alone, but because mental stimulation keeps the prefrontal cortex active in ways that delay sleep onset by an average of 47 minutes in adults over 70, according to research from Harvard Medical School. The synergy tip: pair your consistent sleep schedule with 10 minutes of slow diaphragmatic breathing before bed. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and repair mode. Research shows it reduces nighttime cortisol levels by up to 22%, making it significantly easier to reach and sustain slow-wave sleep in aging adults. Dorothy, 83 years old, had not slept through the night in years. She would wake at 2 a.m. and lie awake for hours. She was exhausted during the day but could not nap. Her doctor had prescribed sleeping pills, but they left her groggy the next morning. I suggested she try the sleep consistency habit and the evening breathing practice. Within 3 weeks, she was sleeping 6 hours straight. Within 6 weeks, she was sleeping 7 hours. She stopped the sleeping pills. Her daytime energy improved. Her memory improved. Sleep consistency is not a luxury, it is a biological necessity. Now, be honest. Do you go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, including weekends? If yes, type yes. If not, type tonight. I want to see who is committed to change. Habit number 3. Eating protein in a deliberate distributed pattern. This is where I see the most dangerous misconception among seniors, and it genuinely concerns me. The idea that you need less protein as you age is not just wrong. It may be one of the most harmful pieces of nutritional folklore ever passed down. The truth is the exact opposite. After 75, due to anabolic resistance, your body actually requires 50 to 75% more dietary protein per pound of body weight than a healthy 30-year-old to achieve the same muscle maintenance effect. Yet most seniors I see are eating half the protein they need, often because appetite decreases with age and high-carbohydrate foods feel easier to prepare and consume. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition involving over 700 adults aged 70 to 85 found that those who consumed at least 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily, distributed across 3 or more meals, maintained significantly more muscle mass, had 41% lower rates of hospitalization due to fall-related injuries, and showed markedly better immune response to common infections like influenza and pneumonia. Think of protein like the bricks your body uses to rebuild itself overnight. Every night while you sleep, your body tears down old damaged tissue and replaces it with new. Without enough bricks, without enough protein, the reconstruction is incomplete. Over months and years, the structural deficit becomes catastrophic. The practical approach is this. Aim for 25 to 35 grams of protein at each of your 3 main meals. This is approximately 4 to 5 ounces of chicken, fish, eggs, Greek yogurt, or legumes per meal. The reason distribution matters so much after 75 is that aging muscles can only utilize approximately 35 to 40 grams of protein per sitting for synthesis. Beyond that, the excess is oxidized for energy rather than used for repair. Spreading it out makes every gram count. We saw this with James, the 78-year-old who had lost 18 pounds. He was eating almost no protein at breakfast, a small amount at lunch, and a large steak at dinner. His body could not use the massive dinner protein load effectively. We shifted his protein distribution to 30 grams at each meal, and his lean mass rebounded in 12 weeks. The synergy tip: pair your protein meals with a small amount of vitamin C, an orange, some bell pepper, a splash of lemon juice. Because vitamin C is essential for collagen synthesis, which works in tandem with dietary protein to maintain not just muscle, but the connective tissue, joint cartilage, and skin integrity that collectively determine how well your body holds itself together after 75. Here is your question. Do you eat protein at every meal, or do you skip breakfast and load up at dinner? Type spread if you distribute your protein. Type fix if you need to change it. This is your wake-up call. Habit number 2. Daily intentional social engagement. I told you earlier that the top 2 items would surprise you. This is the one that surprises most people because it sounds too soft, too emotional to be a medical recommendation. But I want to be absolutely clear. The research on social engagement and longevity in adults over 75 is not soft. It is some of the hardest, most replicable science in modern gerontology. A study from Brigham Young University analyzing data from over 300 zeros adults across multiple decades found that social isolation carried a mortality risk equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Let me say that again. Being chronically socially isolated is as dangerous to your lifespan as smoking 15 cigarettes every single day. For adults over 75, the National Institute on Aging has found that loneliness accelerates cognitive decline by up to 64%, increases the risk of dementia by 41%, and dramatically elevates inflammatory markers in the blood, specifically interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, that directly damage cardiovascular tissue, immune function, and neural connectivity. Here is the physiological reason this works at such a deep level. Meaningful social interaction, not passive screen time, not watching television in the same room as someone, but actual engaged human connection, triggers the release of oxytocin, which suppresses cortisol, reduces inflammation, and activates the prefrontal cortex in ways that keep neural pathways dense and active. Think of your social brain like a muscle. The neurons that fire during genuine conversation, shared laughter, debate, and emotional connection are the same neurons that maintain your memory, your decision-making, and your sense of self. When those neurons go quiet for weeks at a time, they begin to prune. And after 75, neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form new connections, has already decreased significantly, making unused pathways far harder to restore. The prescription here is not complicated, but it must be intentional. Aim for at least one meaningful in-person social interaction every single day. A phone call counts if it is genuinely engaged. A community group, a faith gathering, a walking partner, a regular lunch with a neighbor. What does not count in terms of the neurological benefit is passive social presence. You must be actively thinking, responding, laughing, disagreeing, sharing. That engagement is the stimulus that keeps your brain structurally intact. Dorothy, 83 years old, lost her husband of 54 years and withdrew almost completely from social life. Her daughter brought her to see me 8 months later. Cognitively, She had declined measurably on standard assessments in less than a year. We did not change her medications. We built her a social schedule, a weekly book club, a daily 20-minute phone call with a rotating list of friends and family, a twice-weekly volunteer shift at her local library. 8 months after that, her cognitive scores had returned to near baseline. Her inflammation markers had dropped. Her daughter told me she seemed like herself again. Social engagement is not a luxury at 75 and beyond. It is a biological necessity now. Be honest. Do you have at least one meaningful social interaction every single day? If yes, type connect. If not, type starting today. I want to see your commitment in the comments. The synergy tip: pair your social engagement with physical movement whenever possible. A walk with a friend, a gentle exercise class with others, gardening with a neighbor. Research from the University of British Columbia shows that combining social interaction with even light physical activity produces a synergistic effect on BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that is significantly greater than either behavior alone. BDNF is essentially fertilizer for your brain cells. You want as much of it as possible. And now habit number 1, the habit that fewer than 12% of adults over 75 maintain consistently. The habit that Johns Hopkins researchers have called the most underutilized longevity intervention available to aging adults without a prescription. If you are still doing this one thing, you are truly one of a kind. Habit number 1, daily purposeful cognitive challenge. Not crossword puzzles, not passive reading, though both have value. I am talking about something more specific, more demanding, and more transformative. The daily practice of learning something genuinely new, a skill, a language, a musical instrument, a new form of creative expression that forces your brain into a state of productive discomfort. Here is why this is number 1. After the age of 75, your brain begins to preferentially rely on established neural pathways. It becomes extraordinarily efficient at doing familiar things and extraordinarily reluctant to build new ones. This is not a character flaw, it is a survival mechanism. An aging brain conserving metabolic energy by favoring the familiar. But here is the problem. This preference for the familiar is also the mechanism by which cognitive reserve is depleted. Cognitive reserve is the brain's resilience buffer, its ability to compensate for age-related structural changes and still function at a high level. Think of it like the RAM in a computer. The more cognitive reserve you have, the more damage your brain can absorb before you start experiencing symptoms of decline. Research from the University of Edinburgh's Lothian birth cohort study, following over 1,000 adults from their 70s into their late 80s, found that those who engaged in novel, challenging cognitive activities for at least 30 minutes per day showed a 47% slower rate of brain atrophy on MRI scans. They maintained significantly better processing speed and episodic memory, and they were 38% less likely to receive a dementia diagnosis over the following decade. A separate study from the Rush Memory and Aging Project found that seniors who described their daily lives as intellectually engaging showed brain function equivalent to adults 10 years younger on standardized neurological assessments. The mechanism is neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. While neuroplasticity does decline with age, it never disappears entirely. The brain retains the capacity for meaningful structural change well into the 80s, but only if it is given sufficient stimulus. Novel learning is that stimulus. Learning a new language activates 5 distinct regions of the brain simultaneously and has been shown in studies from the American Academy of Neurology to delay dementia onset by an average of 4.5 years. Learning a musical instrument engages fine motor control, auditory processing, memory, and emotional regulation in a coordinated way that no other activity replicates. Even learning to cook a new cuisine from scratch, because it requires reading, sequencing, sensory attention, and motor skill, provides meaningful cognitive challenge. The practical approach: choose one genuinely new skill every 3 to 4 months, and spend at least 20 to 30 minutes per day actively learning it. The key word is actively. Watching someone else play guitar on YouTube is not learning guitar. Sitting with an instrument in your hands and struggling through a chord progression is. The struggle, that productive discomfort, is where the neurological benefit lives. It is the cognitive equivalent of resistance training. The resistance is the point. Robert, 79 years old, retired from a 40-year career as a civil engineer, and by his own description, spent the first 3 years of retirement doing very little that truly challenged his mind. He came to me after noticing increasing difficulty recalling names and following complex conversations. His MRI showed age-appropriate changes, nothing alarming, but his cognitive reserve scores were lower than I would have liked. I gave him one prescription. Pick something he had always wanted to learn and do it every day. He chose oil painting, something he had never done in his life. He was terrible at first, and he will tell you that himself. 18 months later, he had completed 23 paintings, joined a local art group, which addressed habit number 2 simultaneous, and his follow-up cognitive assessments showed improvement in 3 of 5 measured domains. Improvement, not maintenance. Improvement at 79, the synergy tip. Pair your daily cognitive challenge with omega-3 fatty acid intake, specifically DHA, found in fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines, or in high-quality fish oil supplements. DHA is the primary structural fat of brain cell membranes. Research from the Framingham Heart Study shows that adults with higher DHA levels demonstrate significantly better neuroplasticity responses to cognitive training. In other words, DHA helps your brain absorb the benefit of what you are learning. It is the fertilizer beneath the seed. Now, let me ask you the most important question of this entire video. Are you currently learning something new? Not reading. Not watching. Actually learning a new skill. If yes, you are part of the 12%. You are truly one of a kind. Type learning in the comments right now. If not, type starting today. This is your moment. This is the habit that changes everything. Now let me tell you about the 5 most common mistakes people make with these longevity habits. Mistake number 1. Trying to do all 6 habits at once. Start with one, master it. Then add the next. The research is clear that consistency matters more than quantity. It is better to do one habit consistently for 3 months than to try all 6 and abandon them after 2 weeks. Mistake number 2. Confusing activity with challenge. Walking is good for you, but walking is not cognitive challenge. Reading is good for you, but reading is not novel learning. The brain needs novelty to build new pathways. Familiar activities maintain existing pathways, which is valuable, but they do not grow new ones. Mistake number 3. Socializing passively. Sitting in the same room with someone while watching television is not social engagement. True social engagement requires active interaction, conversation, emotional exchange. Passive presence does not trigger the oxytocin response or activate the prefrontal cortex in the same way. Mistake number 4. Forgetting the synergy. These habits are not additive, they are multiplicative. Social engagement plus physical movement is more powerful than either alone. Protein timing plus resistance training is more powerful than either alone. Cognitive challenge plus omega-3 intake is more powerful than either alone. Use the synergy tips I have shared. Mistake number 5. Giving up too soon. Neuroplastic change takes weeks, not days. Muscle growth takes weeks, not days. Cognitive reserve rebuilding takes months. If you do not see immediate results, do not quit. The research shows that the biggest improvements come between weeks 8 and 12 of consistent practice. Now let me answer the 5 most common questions people ask about these longevity habits. Question 1. How old is too old to start? Research shows meaningful improvements in adults starting at 80, 85, and even 90 years old. It is never too late. The brain retains neuroplastic capacity well into the 90s. Muscles respond to resistance training at any age. Social engagement works at any age. Start where you are. Question 2. What if I have a physical limitation that prevents resistance training? There are always modifications, chair exercises, resistance bands with light tension, water aerobics, even isometric contractions, where you squeeze a muscle without moving the joint, provide meaningful stimulus. Work with a physical therapist to find adaptations. Question 3. What if I live alone and social engagement is difficult? Schedule phone calls. Join virtual groups. Volunteer. Adopt a pet. Visit a senior center. The key is active engagement, not physical proximity. A 20-minute phone call with genuine conversation counts. Question 4. What counts as cognitive challenge? Anything that feels hard and new. A new language. A musical instrument. A craft you have never tried. Cooking a new cuisine. Learning to use a new technology. The feeling of being confused or frustrated is actually a sign that your brain is working. That productive discomfort is the stimulus. Question 5. How do I track my progress? Simple measures. Record your morning hydration. Track your protein intake for a week. Use a sleep diary. Write down what you learned each day. These small tracking behaviors reinforce the habit and show you progress over weeks and months. Now let me give you a practical 10-step protocol to implement these 6 habits over 6 months. Step 1. Choose one habit to start. I recommend strategic hydration because it is the easiest and provides the fastest feedback. Step 2. Set a specific time for your morning water. Place a glass on your nightstand before bed. Step 3. Add 1 teaspoon of chia seeds or a pinch of sea salt to your morning water for electrolyte absorption. Step 4. Track your water intake for 1 week. Aim for 1.8 to 2.2 liters daily. Step 5. After 2 weeks of consistent hydration, add resistance movement. Schedule 2 sessions per week at specific times, Monday and Thursday, Tuesday and Friday. Choose a time and block it in your calendar. Step 6. After 2 weeks of consistent movement, add sleep consistency. Set a fixed bedtime and wake time. Stick to it 7 days a week. Step 7. After 2 weeks of consistent sleep, add protein distribution. Plan your meals around 25 to 35 grams of protein at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Step 8. After 2 weeks of consistent protein, add social engagement. Schedule 1 social interaction per day. A phone call, a walk with a friend, a group activity. Step 9. After 2 weeks of consistent social engagement, add cognitive challenge. Choose 1 new skill to learn. Spend 20 minutes per day actively learning it. Step 10. Do not add a new habit until the previous one feels automatic. If you try to do all 6 at once, you will likely fail. Slow and steady wins this race. Let me quickly recap the 6 habits, the 5 mistakes, the 5 questions, and the 10 steps. The 6 habits: strategic hydration, resistance movement, consistent sleep, deliberate protein distribution, daily social engagement, and purposeful cognitive challenge. The 5 mistakes: trying all at once, confusing activity with challenge, passive socializing, forgetting synergy, giving up too soon. The 5 questions: how old is too old? Never. Physical limitations, modify, living alone schedule. What counts as challenge, new and hard? How to track, simple metrics. The 10 steps. Start with hydration, set morning water time, add electrolyte, track water, add movement, add sleep consistency, add protein distribution, add social engagement, add cognitive challenge. Do not add until previous habit feels automatic. Here is the truth that most medical appointments never have time to cover. Your body and mind at 75, 80, and 85 retain a remarkable stubborn capacity for resilience. Not in spite of age, but in dialogue with it. The 6 habits we discussed today are not about turning back the clock. They are about making the most extraordinary possible use of the time the clock still has. They are about carrying your own groceries, remembering your grandchildren's names, driving to your own appointments, laughing until your eyes water at dinner with someone who matters to you. That is what independence looks like. That is what quality of life means, and I have seen it with my own eyes in patients who were told there was nothing left to optimize. It is never ever too late to begin. The Stanford study found that those who maintained just 4 of these 6 habits reduced their rate of accelerated functional decline by 61%. 61%. That is not a small number. That is the difference between living your life on your own terms and living it on someone else's schedule. If this video changed how you see aging, hit like so. Winds of Thought can bring you more science of the body you inhabit. And comment below. What is your age, and which of these 6 habits do you want to build first? Type hydration, or movement, or sleep, or protein, or social, or learning, or simply I am starting today. And if you already do all 6, type one of a kind. I want to see you in the comments. Your independence is worth the effort. Start today. Says this video to someone who needs to hear it. Your parent who has given up on their health. Your friend who thinks decline is inevitable. Your spouse who has withdrawn from social life. Their bodies and minds are not broken. They just need the right habits. You do not need expensive supplements. You do not need complicated routines. You need water, movement, sleep, protein, people, and learning. Start today. Your 75+ years can be your best years yet.